Our first speaker today is Ruby Sharma, Senior Manager of Worldwide Strategic Alliance at FireEye. Later on, Kasey Cross, Senior Product Marketing Manager for A10, will also be speaking. Please go ahead, Ruby.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me very clearly. I am Ruby Sharma, and I work for FireEye, and A10 is one of our strategic partners in the space of uncovering cyber threats which are using SSL as an encryption. So let's go over the agenda for today's webinar. We'll go over to the next slide, please. In today's webinar, we will go over the current state of cybersecurity. I'm going to talk about the new threat landscape, the cybersecurity problem in general, and how FireEye's mission and technology is combating this problem. We will also go over A10's technology and A10's solution and talk about how FireEye and A10 together are solving the problem. At the end, we will reserve some time for questions. As Stephanie mentioned early on, please, during the webinar, please feel free to type in your questions using the chat window, and we will address those questions at the end of the webinar. All right, so let us move on to the next slide. And let me briefly talk about the current state of cybersecurity, or the new threat landscape, as we have been saying. So what is really new in this threat landscape? What is changing every day? What we are noticing at FireEye from the data that we have been gathering over the years is the threat, what we see today, is going to change tomorrow and will also change the day after. And why is that? Why is this threat changing? What we notice is the bad guys are innovating. The bad guys are using, if they notice what they're using is no longer effective, they're innovating. Just like the security companies, the bad guys are innovating. The bad guys are also collaborating in many cases, and they form different groups, and they use advanced tactics and techniques in this constantly changing environment to make sure that they can breach the network. So let's move on. So we see that the innovation, the attackers have more innovation, the attackers are more dynamic, they're not standing still, they're more advanced, they're using more complex tools and tactics. And so let's say if you have a defender, right, somebody who's protecting your network, they're investing and they're trying to be more effective. The attackers, the bad guys, are also responding by developing advanced tactics. What we have a problem is we have a person problem. We have a bad guy problem. That's the person we are dealing with. We are not dealing with a piece of software. The current security models that we have been using, those models are not working in this scenario, period. That's completely ineffective. So we have to do something different. If the bad guy is innovating, we have to innovate. So anybody who understands this basic premise of the bad guys are innovating, and I need to figure out a better solution for my network, is going to have much more success than a person who feels that, hey, I have an antivirus, so I think I'm very well protected, right? That's not going to work. Now let's look at what is happening in the news lately. We have been noticing that the breaches and the advanced attacks is all over the headlines. It's all over the news. Every other week, we hear about a new breach, and we hope that's the last of the things, and that's the last headline that all of us are going to hear about, and then come again, there's another headline. What I can tell you is that from a FireEye perspective, FireEye is the world's foremost incident responder company, FireEye and Mandiant, and we get called when a breach happens, and we know the breaches which make the headlines, and we also know the breaches which do not make the headline, because we are there for most of them. And the company calls FireEye and Mandiant because they have a serious problem and they are not able to solve it. So we know that for a fact because we are at the front line of all those breaches. If you notice, these breaches are all across industries, all different verticals. cybersecurity is not a vertical specific or an industry specific problem. Cybersecurity and breaches are happening across all verticals, across the globe, across all industries. So it is very, I want to make it very clear that this problem is very prevalent and it is very continuing and it is the new normal for all of us. Okay. So let's move on and talk about a little bit about what are we trying to do to counter these issues. We do notice that the customers are spending a lot of money. On an average, the figure quoted is $30 billion plus spending is done on trying to protect networks from breaches. That's a year, every year. Companies are spending that amount of money. That's a lot of money, right? But why are we not still getting protected? Because we're spending all this money on products which are using pattern matching as their basic model of protection, and that's not working. Now, the other thing all of these other products have in common is that they all work in silo, right? In fact, many security products are focused on this one single function that they provide. This was such a rampant characteristic of security products in 90s and early 2000 that we saw a rise of a new category of security products to deal with this weakness of silo function, and it was called SIEM, the Security Information and Event Management, right? The SIEMs basically provide a glue atop all these different security products that you may try to buy, and they tie all these different things together. So you could, as a customer, manage all these different products and reach to better conclusions by looking at data from multiple products, right? So think about this for a second. You're buying all these products, you're spending all this money, all these products are working in a silo fashion, so they're not interconnected. Then you buy another product so that you can connect all these products and make sense out of them because they all are generating alerts. But none of them are actually giving you the answer to the question that you're looking for, right? So you're trying to make sure you don't get breached, you don't get attacked, but that's still happening. And you spend all this money and then you buy this product, and many times you also notice customers that after they put in a PO for the product, they also put a PO for a head count, right? Just so that they have somebody to manage this. So this is a lot of expensive exercise that's been going on, but we are not getting the results that the customers are looking for, right? So let's move on, and I want to share some more additional statistics with you. And these statistics actually come to us from our Mandiant teams. Our Mandiant team has an M-Trends report that gets released every year, and Mandiant folks are always in the front line of all the breaches that that happen on the globe. So this data is coming from them. I feel this data has to be shared with everybody. From the data that we have gathered with all the breaches that we have seen, on an average, it takes a company 229 days. That's about, you're talking about 8 months, right? On an average, 8 months for a company to realize, to be aware, or to detect that they have been breached. That's a long time, 8 months, right? Of all the organizations that have been breached, 67%, that's 1/3, about 1/3 of them learn that they have been breached from an external agency, from a third party, right? So think about it. Most of them, 1/3 of them, I have absolutely no idea they've been breached. For about 8 months, they have no idea. And then when they come to know of it, somebody outside the organization tells them, hey, you know what? Your customer data just got leaked. Your credit card information, that all that you were sitting on just got leaked. Or your IP just got leaked. Imagine the impact. Imagine the impact. The impact is humongous. It would start with all the machines that got breached. I got to reimage them, I got to patch them, I got to fix them, right? That's the first expense that the company would think of. The next thing the company would think of is, what data did they steal? You know, what all did the bad guy who has been innovating and got into my network, despite me spending $30 billion, a lot of money over a year, every year, trying to fix this problem, what did he take with him? And you would start to craft a list and say, okay, let me do the opposite. Let me make a list of things that they did not take, and that would probably be a blank sheet of paper, right? 8 months they had access to the network. They probably took all the important things they wanted to, right? So you have IP, intellectual property getting leaked. You have customer data, key corporate information, financial information getting leaked. That's a huge impact, right? Then we talk about the third big point where this is completely unknown impact. In terms of financial numbers, it's hard to quantify the impact in the numbers of, litigation fees, courts and federal investigations, which talk about, hey, if you're sitting on key information, be it customers or IPO or any of the other kind, then the federal guys are going to come in and ask, it's important for you to take care. So you're talking about court cases and litigation fees, which is hard to quantify, and that can run into huge numbers. And the final impact is this is a boardroom level discussion, right? A breach happens, it's a big impact to the company's basic business, and it impacts the executives. It impacts CIOs, it impacts CISOs, CISOs. Their jobs are on the line, and ultimately, in certain cases, we have also seen it impact CEOs. So the impact is it's a humongous impact when a breach happens, and the data is staggering. It's mind-blowing data to say, oh my goodness, the bad guys have been in my network for so long, and I was completely unaware about it, and they took so much with them, okay? So we're looking at a big problem here. So let's move on and talk about, if I'm spending all this money, I'm buying all these good products, even though if they're working in silo, and I'm hiring folks to manage these products, and I'm trying to be doing the best. Why is it not working? So there is a concept that most folks in the industry use, which is a fine concept. It's called defense in depth, right? And most security practitioners follow this particular principle, which is completely fine principle, which says, I'm going to use multiple different products and deploy them in different parts of my network, right? And the key principle here being that if one of them fails to detect the breach, then or goes down, right? Then I have something else that backs it up, and I'll be able to find it one way or the other. And that's a great principle, and it's based on a military doctrine. But the problem is, in many cases, and far too many cases, what the companies are not realizing that each of these different layers actually don't give them the defense in depth that they're looking for. And here's why, right? Let's look at this diagram that we have in front of us. We've got a firewall, right, an IPS, a secure web gateway, an anti-spam gateway, and a desktop antivirus, right? So I may have multiple products which are placed in different places in my network, but they all are using the same concept for the detection and protection approach. And that's the signature-based concept. That means that you have to know what an attack looks like before you can ultimately find it and deal with it. Well, if all the technologies are using exactly the same approach or are very close to the same approach to identify attacks, then I do not have multiple layers here. I have one layer, and that's the signature-based layer. So if I really want defense in depth, and if I have a signature layer, then I also need a layer that looks beyond signatures, right, at the behavior level of that attack. Right? What about the detection of exploits based on how they're shaped and formed and how they behave on host system after they detonate? That's the layer I am looking for, right? So let's move on and talk about a little bit about FireEye. FireEye is core mission is to protect our customers. We are very passionate about it. That's our core business. We are here to stop advanced attacks through our innovation, our technology, our intelligence, and our expertise. Right? If we flip the slide further on, what has been key in the history of FireEye is that we have built a technology grounds up focused on discovering and uncovering cyber attacks. And we are trying to bring more our customers and our partners together and form a global defense community that can combat the threats, advanced threats that are out there today, right? And we have seen plenty of proof that these threats are prevalent, that these threats are persistent, and at the end of the day, we are on a mission to take the bad guys out of your network, and we are constantly innovating to do that. So I hope by now we have set the stage and understood that the cyber attacks is a very real problem. It is a new normal. It is happening everywhere, and we have to counter it. For FireEye, A10 has been a very good partner. With A10, you could deploy FireEye products very much in line, and I want to hand it off to Kasey to explain and talk a little bit more about how A10 is helping FireEye look at that SSL traffic and uncover cyber threats. Kasey?
Sure. Thank you, Ruby. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the SSL blind spot. So Ruby has described many mounting cybersecurity threats, but now I'm going to talk about a new threat that you may not be thinking about. It impacts virtually every type of security attack vector and can evade many types of security defenses, from DDoS attacks to malware and advanced threats to insider abuse and data leak prevention and more. So how serious is the threat? According to a report by NSS Labs, 25 to 35% of internet traffic is encrypted, and that number is growing. So because of the NSA and Snowden leaks, we've realized that governments are snooping on users' data, and that's made a lot of organizations, a lot of application vendors decide to encrypt data. So the amount of internet traffic that's encrypted is growing, and in fact, for some organizations, that number reaches 70% of all traffic. In addition, research by Gartner estimates that 50% of all attacks will use encryption by 2017. And yet, despite this, over 80% of organizations that have firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, or UTM appliances do not decrypt SSL traffic at their firewall. So that means they've invested the money to be able to look into packets and perform intrusion prevention and look for attacks, and yet they're not utilizing it for, up to 65% of the traffic, or they're only using it for that traffic that's in clear text, and all the SSL traffic is going by uninspected. And one of the reasons why many organizations today do not decrypt SSL traffic at their firewall is because by turning on SSL decryption, they see a dramatic decrease in performance. In fact, the average performance degradation for 7 leading enterprise firewalls is 81%. And what that means is that if you're spending $1 million today on your network firewalls and you decide that you really need to look into that SSL traffic because attacks may be passing you by, you need to spend at least another $4 million to get the same level of performance. So I'm sure most organizations are aware that as they add more layers of security, whether it be intrusion detection and intrusion prevention or URL filtering or application layer access controls, they suddenly start seeing performance degradation, and that performance degradation is even greater when they enable SSL decryption. So, and by the way, this is not meant to criticize any firewall vendors today. Firewalls are absolutely essential for every organization to provide a network layer defense, It's just that by adding SSL decryption, there's a dramatic decrease in performance. And when I spoke to our security team here at A10 about what type of threats could go over SSL, they basically told me that virtually every single cyber attack, every type of network layer attack, every type of application layer attack on your network can go over SSL. And so I can't obviously list all of them, but I'll just give you an example of how basically the entire malware infection lifecycle can occur and bypass security controls by using SSL. So good examples are bot herders can develop malware and then put it on drive-by download sites. If those download sites are encrypted, users can download the malware, and if you're inspecting the traffic and you're not looking at SSL traffic, you're not decrypting SSL traffic, you're not aware that files are being downloaded. It's because it's all encrypted. Malware can be attached in emails, or emails can have links that allow users to download from an encrypted site. Again, this would bypass your security controls if you're not looking at SSL traffic. In addition, it can be, malware can be sent through instant messaging or a variety of other mechanisms that can all be encrypted. And then once clients are infected, they will usually try to either connect to a command and control center server, or they will try to send out, stolen information. And right now, those mechanisms can also be encrypted. So for example, bots can go to command and control centers and communicate over SSL. They can also send out data that they've stolen over SSL. So if they've compromised the machine and they're extracting passwords or other sensitive information from that machine, they can use SSL to exfiltrate data. They can actually basically get around most security controls. So if you're looking at bots that are accessing known malicious IP addresses, bots can get around that as well, because they can basically get command and control updates via Twitter, which is encrypted. They can they can send out data via Yahoo or Gmail accounts, which also is encrypted. And so if you're just monitoring the traffic of the bot, you would just see a user going to Twitter, you'd see a user going to Gmail, to Yahoo, and you would think that there's nothing suspicious going on, and you can't look into that data because it's encrypted. And so therefore, if organizations really want to stop advanced cyber threats, they need to be able to look into SSL traffic. As I mentioned before, every type of attack vector virtually can go over SSL. One example of a well-known recent event was when General David Petraeus, who is the head director of the CIA, when he was communicating with his mistress, he would log into Gmail and update rough drafts of the email message, and then I guess Paula Broadwell, she would log in as well and update the draft message. All of that communication was over SSL. So if users or sort of organizations are not looking at SSL traffic, they would not have realized that was going on. That's just one example. You could, if you were an insider and you wanted to steal information, you could obviously send it via email. You could upload files via SSL to online file sharing sites. There's a number of ways you can get past network security controls by using SSL. So there are a variety of security defenses today, including advanced threat platforms, next-gen firewalls, SIEMs, network forensics devices. Any product that looks at network activity, they can all be bypassed by using SSL. And so organizations that have invested the $30 billion that Ruby mentioned earlier, those organizations need to be able to look into SSL traffic, and they need to make sure that every one of their network security devices can look into SSL traffic. So with that, I will turn it back over to Ruby.
Thank you, Kasey. So definitely organizations need the ability to look into the SSL traffic and the other traffic as well. So this is a perfect segue for us to talk about the FireEye technology and look into understand how is this technology different from the other technologies that the customers have been using for so many years. So I talked about that FireEye's core mission is to protect our customers, that we are reimagining security, and we are innovating and we're doing different things and not doing it the old way, and so that so that we can continue to catch the bad guys. So the technology is the core piece of this equation, and it begins with MVX, which stands for a virtual machine model-based detection engine. It's a purpose-built for the security. Its grounds are built specifically for this purpose. What it means is we didn't take a VMware and stuff it in a box and say, there is the VM solution to go catch, go and detect advanced attacks. No, that's not how it is built. It's purposely built. It's a custom-built virtual machine. It's patented to identify attacks and exploits. It does not use signatures. So that's a key thing for all of us to understand, that it does not use signatures. And so we don't really have to know how an attack or a breach would look like or an exploit would look like before we are going to catch it, right? Before we're going to discover it. So that's the key important point. So, but it does look at exploits, right? So it is not just analyzing, hey, is this a .exe? Is it a whatever, right? And if that's the case, then only I'm going to analyze it. No, it's not doing that. It's looking at all of your traffic, and it's looking at that exploit that pauses and tries to evade the detection, and that's what it's trying to look for. So it's a significant differentiator. If you were to ask me from the other competitors in the market who say, hey, we also have a sandbox, and we also have some kind of this technology. For them, we say, good for you that you have a sandbox, but we have a solution, and we're looking at the entire problem every single time using this MVX engine. And so it's multi-vector, right? And we try to put this in every possible place in the network that we can, so that we can look for those advanced attacks. And one of the figures I really want to quote here is that of the 19 zero days that were discovered in the last 12 months, 14 of them came from FireEye. FireEye detected 14 of those 0 days, and they used this particular technology, the MVX technology, to look for those 0 days. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this particular technology. I want to double click into this technology for all of us here. And if we build the whole slide out, you can see that this particular technology can take in the input. It could be placed on the network or on the email or on the mobile or on the files, and take a look at all the content, all the traffic, and detonate the traffic in the virtual machine, and look at the exploit and basically trick the malware into believing that it's running on an actual machine, and thereby the malware is unable to evade and basically reveal itself, basically thinking, oh, I'm running on the end host, where am I supposed to run? And that's how we find it. And then it looks at all what communication the exploit is trying to build with the command and control server, what additional malware it's potentially trying to download, all the callbacks it's trying to do, how it's trying to spread through your network laterally as well, that you can find that, and at the end of the day also to try to find if they're trying to exfiltrate any information out of your network. One important point here is this particular MVX technology, it's highly efficient. It has our engine, it has the capability to scale, and it has the capability of look at about 500,000 of different objects every hour. This is a significant differentiator from other products or technologies in the market. It's a significant differentiator and very competing differentiator. If you look at the other sandbox solutions which say, hey, I'm competing with FireEye, they'll probably analyze 5 to 10 or tops 100 objects an hour. That's just not going to get the job done. That's not going to cut it. Imagine putting a product or a solution or a technology in your network, in the perimeter of your network, and imagine how much network traffic you get into your network. That a technology that cannot scale and that does not have the efficiency as FireEye technology does, is not going to catch those breaches. So the key point here is this purpose-built for doing this job, for doing the security analysis, and to scale at the level that we want to scale, to look at your web traffic flows, to look at hundreds and thousands of objects and analyze them and detonate them in the appliance. not only are we analyzing and identifying them, we are also correlating them. So we're chaining all these events together. So if you have multiple FireEye products, in case you have multiple FireEye products, appliances in your network, not only can we correlate within a particular appliance, right? One FireEye appliance will have hundreds of virtual machines running, and so it can correlate within that appliance, and it can also correlate across the different appliances, right? And provide you that full picture of the breach that you're looking for, right? And that the full analysis of the breach that you're looking for. All right, so that's a huge differentiator to all the other competitors in the market. I just want to make sure that we all get that. So moving on to the next slide, I want us to take we sort of zoomed into the FireEye technology and zoomed into how FireEye technology can be placed in different parts of the network and how efficient it is. I want to sort of then go back and go to a helicopter view and talk about some important elements of security. When we think of a complete security solution, what do we think of and what do we need, right? And so, if you're a cybersecurity analyst or cybersecurity expert in your company, in your network, in your company or organization, there are a couple of things that you care about, right? What are the phases that you care about, right? You care about detection. That's very important. You need the ability to identify the breach as early as possible, right? You need a solution that can help you get there. You need to identify that. Then you need some way of prevention. You really want to make sure that you don't let that attack happen, that the attacker is not successful, the bad guy is not successful, right? Even if you're perhaps able to catch a piece of malicious software that the bad guy was trying to get into your network, in your environment, if you just prevent or block the callback, that itself is a huge win, because you've just stopped the whole breach to happening. You contain that, and you've contained the impact, which is fantastic. You're reducing the attacker's agility. So that's a very important step in your thought process, that all right, I need the ability to prevent it. Then on top, you need the ability to analyze, right? You were going to say, all right, I've stopped this this particular exfiltration that was going to happen through the SSL traffic. I've stopped that. I've detected, but now can I analyze it? Oh, can I generate a report? Can I do something to look at the bigger picture, so that you're not contributing to that 229-day statistic that we were talking about, right? We don't want to be one of them. And then you want to say, you want that overall analyzing picture. Then you want to say, I want the ability to resolve it, finally fix the problem, right? Machines who got impacted, can I, do I need to reimage them? Do I need to, put some kind of other solution on it, like ultimately fix the problem? And then you go back to the cycle again, right? Detect, prevent, analyze, resolve. You never stop. That is the cycle. It is a continuous cycle. And why am I in this continuous cycle? Well, because the bad guy is not stopping, right? The bad guy is going to be using anything and everything to breach your network. It can also encrypt all its malicious code using SSL, while you're thinking, oh, everything's good. No, it's not, right? So we have to be a step ahead. We have to keep on innovating, just like the bad guy is doing. So we are in this continuous cycle of threat prevention process, is how we call it, right? Detect, prevent, analyze, resolve. So this is, this is what we're looking at. We need to be there on top of our game to catch the bad guy, and FireEye helps you get there. So I want to do an introduction to, so we're going to go to the next slide, do an introduction to FireEye Adaptive Defense, right? So we talked about the core technology and how you can use it, and what all of us need to stay on top of our game and be ahead of the bad guys. And so it starts with threat intelligence. It's important. We have a partner. We're partnering with a solution which gives you the ability and provides you that kind of intelligence, which is looking at the global threat landscape and is aware of the breaches that is happening in different industries, in different verticals, and has this huge repository / catalog of all these threat intelligence, right? And can share that with you in real time and better inform you and better protect you for those advanced breach that may hit you, right? Then you definitely need is a platform to take that technology and place it in different parts of your network. So you're looking at every input vector, be it mobile, be it endpoint, be it your network, be it your email, be it some file that content that you just downloaded or trying to back up, right? And then you need some kind of analytics on top of it, so that you say, all right, show me all of what has happened in the past 12 months or 3 months, and what were the biggest red issues, and which are my lower priority, and which are my higher priority. And then if a breach unfortunately was to happen that you contained using FireEye technology, you do need the ability to have forensics, to go back in time and see how did this actually come in, and what actually attacked me, and who attacked me, right? That's a big question as well. So that's the platform that FireEye provides you. And finally, the most important thing is the expertise. FireEye and Mandiant together provide that expertise. We do it 24/7, 365 days a year. And we have highly intelligent expert folks working in our company, which is the Mandiant Incident Response Services, Managed Defense Services, which you can potentially utilize and look for 24/7 global monitoring security operation centers, right? So we provide that as well. So what you're looking at is we provide this entire solution to make sure that you are in this continuous threat prevention process of detect, prevent, analyze, and resolve, right? From here on, I want to hand it off to Kasey to talk more specifically about how FireEye as a technology and A10 as a technology together, you can use that in your network and stop those advanced attacks who are using SSL. Okay, Kasey.
Great, thank you. So I want to remind everyone, if you have any questions about the FireEye solution or about our SSL Intercept technology as I present it, please be sure to enter those questions into the Q&A panel in the WebEx screen. So A10 has in its Thunder application delivery controllers an innovative feature called SSL Intercept, which enables it to decrypt SSL traffic at high speeds. That empowers FireEye appliances to be able to inspect otherwise what would be encrypted traffic and uncover threats in that traffic. And it also, with its integrated load balancing, it helps scale FireEye deployments, and when deployed in line, it can also improve uptime by routing around down appliances. So how does the technology work? So we can support both inline and non-inline FireEye deployments. When FireEye Threat Prevention Platforms are deployed inline, a Thunder ADC appliance installed between end users and the FireEye Prevention Platforms can decrypt SSL traffic and send it unencrypted to the FireEye appliance. The FireEye appliance then inspects the traffic for advanced threats and forwards it on to another Thunder application delivery controller, which then encrypts the traffic again and sends it to the desired internet server. Then when the response comes from the internet server, it comes encrypted. We decrypt it. The FireEye appliance then inspects it again, and then we re-encrypt it before sending it to the client. So it's basically an SSL forward proxy, and it enables the FireEye appliances to inspect the traffic. We offer extremely high performance, so when we're deployed, customers will not notice any degradation in performance. We can also operate non-inline. Oh, and I should mention a couple things about this. First of all, there's a couple different scenarios here. If you wanted to, most A10 customers would want to deploy a pair of A10 appliances on either side for redundancy, but it's not required. And optionally, if you want to, you can actually deploy a single appliance, and that appliance can both encrypt and decrypt traffic. So you can send traffic to a Thunder ADC appliance. You can send it to an inline FireEye appliance, and then a second partition on our appliance could then re-encrypt the data or decrypt it depending on the direction of the traffic. In addition, we can help FireEye appliances that are installed non-inline in sniffer mode to analyze what would otherwise be encrypted traffic. So in that mode, we would intercept SSL traffic, decrypt it, send it off a mirrored port or a spam port, and then the FireEye appliances could then inspect the traffic as if it was, in clear text. So we have a number of key features that I wanted to highlight. Some of these features, in fact, most of these features are coming in our upcoming 4.01 release, and those include a URL classification service. So one thing, we can help keep the sensitive data secure because the only part of the network where the data is being decrypted is within a usually contained network area, data center, or whatnot, or a DMZ, where you have great control over the network, and you can prevent anyone from looking at this data. However, despite that, you may want to bypass certain types of traffic, such as traffic to banking sites or healthcare sites for compliance. So beginning in 4.01, we will support URL classification lists provided by Webroot's Bright Cloud service. And they can categorize up to 460 million URLs, and then you can optionally bypass that sensitive traffic to the banking and healthcare and what other sites you feel you do not want to inspect. You can also use our manual bypass lists. We have those bypass lists available right now, but in version 4.01, we're going to increase the size of the bypass list. So if you know of certain sites you want to bypass, you can enter them into our appliance today. We also will be introducing dynamic port detection. So while most SSL traffic goes over port 443, we would be able to detect it on any port. And then when users are accessing certificates, like sites where there's an expired certificate or whatnot, we'll have a bunch of different options the administrator can configure so that the users see an error message when they're visiting the site, even though we're in the middle re-signing the request. So there's a bunch of different things that we can do to make sure that users are aware if they're accessing untrusted sites. We can even block access to the site if desired. We are introducing our SSL Intercept for our A10 Thunder virtual appliance. You can use this in production, but because it doesn't support the high SSL throughput of our regular appliances because it doesn't have dedicated security processors, most likely will be used for testing, for demonstration purposes, and maybe for lab purposes. But you can obviously use it in production as well. And then we'll be able to decrypt SMTP and XMPP for mail and messaging protocols. A little more detail about URL classification service. We will be able to categorize up to 460 million domains into 83 different website categories, including phishing sites and other malicious type sites, as well as banking and healthcare and confidential type sites, maybe government sites, depending upon your organization. And the Bright Cloud services use an advanced learning engine to quickly learn websites and categorize them much more accurately than could be done by humans. So to describe the benefits of our joint solution with FireEye, we can help organizations eliminate blind spots in their defenses by decrypting SSL traffic. We can maximize uptime with load balancing. So when we're deployed in line, we can load balance multiple FireEye appliances. When the FireEye appliance is deployed non-inline as a sniffer, we can actually split up the traffic that is sent up into 4 different streams per one of our Thunder appliances, which enables basically the threat prevention platform to scale up 4 times. So you could use any of our load balancing algorithms, round robin, weighted round robin, et cetera, to segment out that traffic and send it off different ports of our appliance. So basically you could quadruple the aggregate performance of your FireEye appliances. And then we can also, I think I mentioned the scaling. And then we can also maximize uptime. So when deployed inline, if we notice that FireEye appliance is not responding, we can route traffic to a different FireEye appliance that is active. And we have advanced health monitoring that can help check the availability of the FireEye appliances. I'm just going to briefly go over our products and then open it up to the Q&A. So Thunder ADC helps organizations with availability, acceleration, and security. First, it offers the health monitoring that I mentioned before to route around failed devices and reduce downtime, and scale out key infrastructure, whether that be web servers, firewalls, etc. We also can help accelerate traffic to improve user experience and reduce network infrastructure costs through caching, compression, and TCP optimization. And then we can help secure organizations and networks. So besides using our SSL Intercept technology, our products also support DDoS protection, web application attack protection with our web application firewall, DNS attack protection, and authentication. So the A10 series of products are built on our Advanced Core Operating System, or ACOS, which can deliver exceptionally high performance, up to 150 gigabits of throughput on a single 1U rack appliance. That's why many leading service providers and large enterprises use A10 Thunder today. On top of that, we've built our application delivery controllers, as well as our carrier-grade NAT, or CGN products, and our TPS, or threat protection products. Our CGN products help with IPv4 scaling and IPv6 transitioning. So if organizations need to handle, huge amounts of network address translation, they can use our CGN products, or if they're transitioning to IPv6, they can use our CGN products. We also can stop DDoS attacks at kind of a network level with our TPS products. And because they're sitting on top of our ACOS operating system, all of these products offer superior performance. And oftentimes they use hardware-based acceleration to detect different types of threats and to perform different functions. We offer many different form factors from our Thunder appliances, our hardware appliances. We support our virtual chassis, which is a clustered system that can basically enable us to scale up 8 times and act as like a single appliance. We also have application delivery partitions, which offer layer 3 virtualization for multi-tenancy, so you can basically have up to like 1,024 separate kind of load balancers in a way within a single appliance. And then we also have our hybrid virtual appliances, or HVA appliances, which basically take our virtual appliances and run it on our own hardware with our own acceleration capabilities. And then we have our vThunder virtual appliances that can be run on commodity hardware, as well as flexible pay-as-you-go licensing for cloud environments. We support centralized management with our A-Galaxy. We have an AX API, which is a RESTful API for management, especially useful for very large enterprises. We have our AFlex TCL-based scripting language, which helps organizations basically have complete programmatic control over traffic. They can basically do whatever they want to traffic with AFlex. And then we have our A-Cloud services for SDN and cloud integration. And then on top of that, we offer delivery models for dedicated networks, managed hosting, and cloud and infrastructure as a service providers. So just to briefly go over our architecture, and I'll keep it fast because I'm sure you guys want to get to the questions. We provide the highest performance networking platform in the industry. And the reason that we can do this is that we have our ACOS operating system that's optimized for 64-bit operating systems, as well as multi-core processors, that enables us to scale linearly as more processes are added to the hardware. And what allows us to do this is our scalable, symmetric, multi-processor system, or SSMP, and our shared memory architecture. And our shared memory architecture basically allows us to eliminate the overhead and the inefficiencies associated with standard inter-process communications. So that pretty much sums up our platform, and then I just want to briefly explain why customers choose A10 for SSL inspection. And that's our high performance. So we can support up to 40 gigabits of throughput for SSL offload, and for SSL intercept, it's slightly lower. I think it's, don't quote me on this, but like roughly 23 gigs for our 6430 model, but the performance will vary depending upon this deployment scenario and whether it's like a 1-box or 2-box deployment. And so that's extremely high performance. Also, another reason is that we're not going to degrade your firewall performance. So besides getting super high performance on our appliances, you also aren't going to hit other appliances in your network and slow down network traffic. And we offer very high price performance as well. And then we have integrated load balancing, so we're not a single specialized appliance on the network. We can help keep your firewalls and your other devices, your advanced threat platforms, whatever devices you have on your network up, and you can help scale them out. And we also have integrated DDoS protection, a lot of other capabilities. So we're not just a specialized SSL decryption appliance. We offer validated interoperability with vendors like FireEye, and we also offer advanced SSL Intercept functionality that goes beyond what you might get from some other network appliances that have been repurposed for this. So basically, that is all. And now I will turn it over to Q&A. So again, we'll pause for about 20 seconds. So if you have any questions about our joint solution or about either of our individual products or about SSL or cybersecurity threats in general, please enter them now into the Q&A panel. Okay, so I think the first question that came in, I think we answered in the webinar, which was showing how the product is deployed, and I think we described that in the webinar. But if you have any additional questions about the deployment that weren't covered in the webinar, please add it to the Q&A panel. The second question is, can A10 also decrypt SSL traffic on inbound traffic to web servers and send it to security devices like FireEye? So I think this is a question of if you wanted to inspect traffic to your web server, either for web attacks or for uploads of malicious activity, you could do that. That would be done with basically our reverse proxy, where we just basically terminate traffic, and then we could send it to the FireEye appliance. And then let's see here. I think that is, it looks like there might be one more question coming in.
This question is from Christopher. Does this appliance work with ECC SSL certificates, elliptic curve cryptography?
That is a very good question. Just a second. So today we support ECC or EC elliptical curve, Diffie-Hellman, ephemeral key exchange protocol in SSL offload mode, and we are going to be adding it as part of SSL Intercept in our 4.01 release, which is coming soon. And we've actually seen a huge increase in questions about ECC because a lot of organizations are worried about snoopers being able to decrypt traffic later when computers get more powerful. And by using ECC, you can make sure that it makes it much, much, much more challenging for outsiders to basically crack SSL traffic. So yeah, so we will support it soon. I think that is one more question.
This is actually more of a housekeeping. The presentation will be available to the attendees after the WebEx today, and we will send that out probably by the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that is all.
If there are no other questions, thank you very much, Ruby and Kasey. Thank you for joining this call. The presentation and the recording will be available on the A10 website and will be sent out to all of the attendees today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact the presenters. Thank you.